everyone. Welcome to the Tek Torrent Podcast. This is number 11 for the year. How is everyone doing? We got a great show for you guys today. Ubisoft takes games to the next level. XFX be hella sus. Microsoft will put ads anywhere they can. And of course, threariper Pro 5000, what they're offering, the same thing for more money. All that and more on the Tek Torrent Podcast. So, of course, I am joined today by our lovely, no longer an intern, Andrew. How you doing today, Andrew?
Oh, what's up, man?
How you doing? Here. Hey. So, as usual, guys, if one of us is too quiet or too loud, let us know in chat, in the live chat. Also, if the music is too loud, let me know. It seemed a little quiet on my end, so I did turn it up a tiny bit. All right, so before we get into our main topics for today, let's call out who's here in the live stream. So we got MC. He is a TekShinji loyal follower. Thank you, by the way. How you doing, MC? He's been with us for a long time, almost 6 months. He's got that 6-month badge. Fixation 500. How you doing, man? Welcome to the stream. Got John Z. Oh, John Z. Welcome. You're usually like busy around this time. You're probably doing real family stuff, but thanks for coming by, man. We also got, yeah, that's it for right now. Hopefully more people join as the stream goes on. So, let's see here. All right. A little update on my house search. So last I spoke about it, I said I picked one. We're going to look at it. So I did schedule a structural engineer to come by and look at the place. So they're going to come by on Monday. So it's 3 days from now. And they did cost a lot of money. So I'm assuming this is a legit like structural inspection. So they'll come by, check out the foundation, the structure, and the landscaping, the grade, because that's those three things are my biggest concerns. I already know the roof needs to be replaced and stuff like that. Essentially, the foundation doesn't really add any value to the house. In fact, it can actually reduce the value if it's had a major repair. So, if it needs any work like that, I'm going to ask for a concession on the price of the house, but there's a limit on that and all that other stuff. I'll talk to my real estate agent. Basically, I'm trying not to get burned, guys. And you know me, I don't like getting burned. I only like burning other people. So yeah, that's what's going on with the house stuff. Those of you that might be following the channel and following us in Discord, some of you might know that I've been having issues with my network connection directly to my computer. Well, so I've been trying to get this fixed, trying to figure it out, and I decided to do more of a deep dive right before this stream, in fact. And actually, Andrew was helping me out, and through a process of elimination. So the problem was actually nothing. It was just wired incorrectly. It just needed one little simple fix, and it was all good, right, Andrew? Nothing to do with me at all.
Well, you know, I mean, choices were made that were less than ideal. I don't know whose choices they were. Maybe they were yours. Maybe they weren't. Who knows?
I'll just say it was someone else's choices, because I obviously couldn't have done what happened. No. So if you guys haven't caught on, what happened was I have two Netgear switches, 10-port switches. They look almost the same. There's one difference on them. One of them is a gigabit switch, and the other one isn't. It's 110 versus 1110. So I put my 110 between the modem, router, and the upstairs network, which is where my computer is, where I stream from and everything. So everything from upstairs up was on a 100 meg connection, and everything from that point below was not. That's why my Wi-Fi was like 300, 400 up and down, but my wired Ethernet connection to my computer upstairs was capped at 80, 90, 100, which is 10% of what I'm supposed to be getting. So through a process of elimination, I used a laptop and all that. When all at the end of the day, I could have just looked with my eyes and see that it was not a gigabit switch. So that was the problem.
I mean, the giveaway was the speed, you know? If it seems capped at 100, it's probably capped at 100.
For a reason. Yeah, so we got that fixed. It's much nicer now. Fixation 500 says, so it wasn't the 8K VR images, motion picture images. No, it was not, unfortunately. That is all on the NAS. You might be wondering, why did I put a switch down there? Well, because So if you guys ever had a real network attached storage, not like a cheap one, like a legit one, when it's doing a bunch of data moving, it's kind of loud actually, especially if it's not on like an anti-vibration platform or something. So it's right next to my bed when I sleep. We're like 3 feet from my head. So it was keeping me up all night going
Oh man.
Yeah, like all night because I'm doing like terabit uploads and stuff, right? So I was like, okay, I can't take this anymore. So I moved it downstairs and I put a switch down there to make more ports so it could connect up. And that's when I started having issues.
That reminds me of like, man, way back in the day when I was like 13 or 14 and I got the old family computer and I had to do like a disk defrag overnight and it would just be a miserable experience.
Oh, defragmentation. I remember those days. Those are good days.
So is your NAS still on a UPS?
Yes. Downstairs where all my networking gear is, that's actually on its own separate dedicated UPS. Everything on that circuit is on its own UPS. There's another UPS at the ONT coming into the optical network terminal coming into the house because I'm on fiber.
Yep.
And there's another yet UPS, so 3 of them at my right here where I'm streaming. So if the power were to go out, all critical components will stay powered. So it's actually happened before, not this year, but last year when I was working for someone else. We were doing a stream and the power went out and it saved my butt because everything still ran. It was just enough time for me to, safely disconnect instead of just disappearing. Jay-Z says, Oh my, lol, those are horrible speeds. Yes, they were very horrible. I had it like that for almost 3 weeks, and I didn't really notice because I wasn't doing anything heavy until I was trying to, actually, it was when I was, 2 nights ago, I was trying to install Halo, and I was noticing I was being capped at like 8 meg. Like, what the hell's going on?
Man.
Right? Yeah, so anyways, that's what's been going on with me. That's the house stuff, and that's my finally fixed my network issue. So Andrew, what's been going on with you? Why don't you tell me what's going on over there?
Yeah, so last week I was talking about I have my desktop apart to try and get some new fans from Gigabyte. I emailed them those pictures, blah blah blah. Unfortunately, they haven't responded to me in over a week at this point. And so I sent them all the pictures per their request so that they could ship me out some new ones.
Mm-hmm.
And, I sent them back the pictures. I didn't hear back. So when it hit the 7-day mark, I sent them another email. This was like 2 or 3 days ago. And just saying, yeah, I sent you those pictures, just making sure you got them. I've attached them again. Please, just let me know that you get this. No response, so we'll see how that goes. Desktop is still in pieces, waiting new fans because it's kind of a pain to replace those fans if the system's built. So, like taking the system apart again, it's on custom loop water cooling, so it's not as easy to, swap the motherboard in and out to do something like that.
You gotta drain the whole system and take it apart.
Yeah, it's a big pain. So, I was hoping, like, even if they said, yeah, we'll get them out in like a couple weeks or whatever, like, I'd rather know that than just be in limbo right now. But, I don't know, man. I'm not thrilled that it's taking them over a week to just reply to an email. So I'm not really anticipating I'll actually get replacement fans in the next couple weeks. So I'll probably just throw the system back together.
Just to catch people up, what fan was this on, by the way?
Yeah, so it's the Gigabyte TRX 40 Design Air Threadripper motherboard, and the fans that are sounding pretty terrible are both the chipset and the MOSFET fans. So the only 2 fans on the board have seemed to fail. And they don't even run that often because they're temperature controlled. They kick on at a certain temperature. So I'm not really sure why they failed. You've been vaping
around it too much, haven't you?
Maybe that's it. I don't know, man. I thought it would be cool to just vape into the case. It looks really cool.
Just blow right into the case.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with that. I'll follow up when I get a reply from Gigabyte. I'm probably going to give them a call in a few days if I don't actually get an email back. And because I have an RMA number, a reference number, all that stuff is accounted for. I'm just not getting the next step. Beyond that, I am considering replacing it entirely, the system, and going with something a little bit more mainstream. So I do have the 32 core Threadripper.
Are you going off Threadripper?
Yeah, so I'll be going off Threadripper. I have the 32 core now, and there are instances where I can max it out, but they're pretty rare. And yeah, I mean, it's just overkill in my opinion, unless you're taking full advantage of either the PCI Express lanes or the cores, and I'm not really doing either very often. The cores I can max out.
You want to stream once or twice? You'll max it out, I guarantee it.
What's that? I
was gonna say the one, like the 3 times a year when you stream from your end, you might max it out.
No, it's nothing for it. So just rare occasions when I'm doing compiling and it maxes out for like 15 minutes maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't, other than those cases where I might slow down a little bit by going to a Ryzen based system. Other than that, the Ryzen based system will probably be a little bit quicker overall and significantly cheaper. So I don't know yet. I was planning to wait to either find an open box CPU from Micro Center or wait for a Ryzen price drop, whichever, because it's going to happen sooner or later. And I'm not really in a hurry to replace the system, but yeah, I don't know. I might be getting something used anyway, maybe a 5900X, and that leaves me the upgrade path to get a 5950 down the road. But I do kind of want to just equip it for a system that's going to last for at least a few years untouched. So I already have 128 gigs of memory that I can throw in it. I already have dual 2 terabyte SSDs I can throw in it.
Mm-hmm. How soon are you planning on making the switch?
As soon as an opportunity presents itself. So.
Oh, really? Okay. All right.
Yeah. So I pretty much decided that I'm probably going to go with the Corsair 4000D airflow case.
Oh, that's a big case.
No, it's compact. That's why.
A 4000. Oh, 4000. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we all know what that D stands for. Airflow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's like 17 by 18 or something. So it's pretty small. I wanted something small. And what else? Yeah, so for the motherboard.
Real quick in chat. Fixation 500 says Gigabyte customer service is terrible. And
is there no but there?
Yeah, there's no but. That's it. That's it.
Okay.
Also, Soul7 says TekShinji, don't have a heart attack. I had to set video res to 14, not even 14, 144p. Which I responded.
Soul7.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just wondering why that is. Is his bandwidth limited, or is it something that
he's at work right now, where they throw him out in the middle of the ocean desert.
Okay. So well, I'm glad he can still watch and hang out with us.
Oh, so he says RigNet is out here installing T-Mobile antennas. So hopefully in the next couple of days I'll have LTE inside the buildings. Oh yeah, that's a good point. So hopefully he probably doesn't have very good internet service out there in the middle of the ocean at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, continue, Andrew. Just want to catch up with chat.
Yeah, so I pretty much have all the core components. Things I would need are just like the motherboard and CPU because it's a complete platform change, and a new case. And I'd probably downscale my power supply because I'm not going to need a 1600 watt.
Yeah, but you have that efficiency.
I know, but even still, I think I'm probably going to try and go with 1000 or 1200 platinum.
You know, I know someone that might have exactly what you need.
Really?
Yeah. Like, they have the 1000 T2. They have a Gigabyte Aorus motherboard with the 5950X, and it's water-cooled. I know someone that might be very... someone you might actually know, actually.
All right, well, I'll get their name after the stream.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Once Gigabyte gets back to me and I'm using my system again, I might be less inclined to switch to a lower core count system. But yeah,
What are
I
you
don't
using
know.
right now if your main desktop is taken apart like that?
I've been using my laptop exclusively for like 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And, that could bring me to my next topic. But so honestly, I've been doing really well with the laptop. I have run external displays off of it, and that's been great just for when I can use the extra real estate. Not even resolution as much as just having a second screen to have something on is so useful. And it's hard to fit everything onto one screen regardless of your resolution. It's nice to just have a secondary one that you don't look at as often but still has that thing like right there waiting for you. You run a triple setup, right?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yes. So I have a OP Dell 240 hertz IPS. I have a ViewSonic color accurate. Then I have an Asus ProArt smaller display on the right.
Okay.
Yeah, all off one card these days.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. So in terms of like a GPU for my desktop, the 3090 Ti is supposed to come out maybe the end of this month.
Maybe.
And depending on price, I might just be trying to get a 3090 FE.
I might
I'm
also
calling
know
it a day.
someone that might have a 3090 FE.
I don't
might.
know if you know anyone with a 3090 FE.
Yeah, not anymore. Those things were getting rare, actually. I should have kept
Yeah, I mean,
all three of mine. I should have never
Yeah,
gave
I
those away or
mean,
sold them.
The in-store drops haven't happened in forever, and the online drops
9
don't
months,
have that many FEs.
actually.
9 months, wow.
I mean, not anytime this year, and the last time was like in what was it, March or April of last year. It was
Okay.
starting to finally get warm, and they're like, oh crap, too many people are showing up, and the cops are getting called. Can't be doing
Yeah.
in-person drops anymore.
Yeah, well, they'll just be sitting on shelves soon anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, using my laptop for the last 2 weeks led me to, the mindset, let me try and squeeze out as much performance as I can. And
Oh
with
dear.
that,
Oh dear. Here we
and
go.
with that, I said, this
my
has the
beer.
3060, has the RTX 3060 mobile, but on this model, it's limited to 75 watts. So 3060s and mobile GPUs in general, different manufacturers can set different TDPs so that it uses a certain amount of power based on the laptop's cooling solution or the battery size or the AC adapter, whatever. So in my case, it's 75 watts. In the case of like a high-end gaming computer, like an Alienware or, like those custom ones, probably like 130 watt TDP.
Mm-hmm.
But with 75, I was like, well, I want a little bit more performance out of this if it's possible. And I know that Lenovo, which is the manufacturer of my laptop, makes another laptop based on the 3060 mobile, but with 90 watt TDP. So I said, well, might as well try and flash the BIOS, see what happens. And so what happened was I got the GPU BIOS for the 3060 with the 90 watt TDP from a Lenovo computer via Tech Power Up, and I used NV Flash to flash it. And it says, device ID mismatch. Are you sure you want to do this? And I say, yeah, of course I do. And I flash it.
5%.
I flash it, and everything goes perfect. So I restart the computer, it boots up, and I'm like, all right, let's fire up Port Royal because I want to see if it actually did anything. I want to see if it's pulling 90 watts now. So I was getting about 4,300 in Port Royal, completely stock on the stock BIOS and everything. With the 90 watt BIOS, I was getting about 4,600, and it was pulling 90 watts. So I'm like, great, that's pretty much what I want. It's a marginal increase, probably about 5%. and but I didn't really have to do anything, which is cool.
You're pulling
whatever
15 more watts, right?
Yeah.
Are you getting more performance as well, or?
Well, I got somewhat more performance. Let me see what the numbers are. Yeah, so like 5 or 6% more performance for quite a bit more power. But regardless, then I said, well, I just want to make sure this thing works and is consistent. So in the regular BIOS, like where the settings are to configure the laptop, the regular system BIOS, there's a setting that can disable, or rather just exclusively use the dedicated GPU, which otherwise it's using the integrated GPU of the 5600H. That's the main processor.
Okay.
It uses both, and it switches based on the program and demand. But in the BIOS, you can set to use only the dedicated GPU. So I said, okay, let me just toggle that, make sure it works. And that is what led to the black screen.
So you weren't using that GPU? Or
no,
rather,
I was
switching.
But
you made it only use that GPU.
Yeah, by making it only use that GPU, it was not cool with that at all. So, and it ended up being a bit of a hassle to fix. So there's no clear CMOS on this laptop that I could find via Google or anything else. So I was not able to undo that BIOS setting.
Oh no!
But booting up the laptop, even with the black screen, I could hear like Windows turning on, and my
oh, so you just had no video output?
I had no video output. Yeah. So I was like, well, damn! I really wish I had turned on Google Remote Desktop on this system at some point, but I hadn't. So what I did was I opened up the laptop. I ended up taking out the SSD, putting it on a test bench, booting it up, installing Google Remote Desktop, putting it back on the laptop, booting up the laptop, and that was able to let me remote into it. But it was at like 640. But that was at like 640 by like 480 pixels, and there was like some issue where the input devices via Remote Desktop just didn't work. So I had to use the trackpad and the keyboard. And actually the trackpad was like, I was using Remote Desktop basically as a monitor only.
Yeah.
And I was using the keyboard
using the
on
laptop's
the laptop.
input devices. Wow. Okay.
But the trackpad, maybe it was moving the cursor, but Remote Desktop didn't show the cursor.
Okay.
So I ended up having to use the keyboard exclusively. So I used the keyboard. I opened up Device Manager, disabled the GPU so that I could flash it back to the stock BIOS, which if you ever flash a GPU BIOS, do the step that makes a backup .rom of the stock BIOS. Because in this case, it was right in the folder of NVFlash. So all I had to do was type NVFlash 64.exe.
As one does.
Backup.rom. And it was right there. And it reflashed the BIOS. I restarted the laptop and I had video once again.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, well, that was stupid. I mean, It was kind of cool to have 5% more performance, but I don't want to like break any function of the laptop, even if it worked fine when it was in regular, not dedicated only mode. So then I said, let me install MSI Afterburner and see how much I would have to OC to get the same performance as the 90 watt BIOS. Turns out if I do plus 180 on the core, it gets the exact same performance, still at 75 watts. So
what have we learned
my
here,
advice would
Andrew?
my advice would be just stick with the BIOS that the manufacturer sends. And if you want a little more performance, Afterburner is a pretty safe way to overclock a GPU.
Without without turning off your video output.
Exactly. Yes.
Oh my god, man.
Also, I was running Port Royal back to back after this, and there was a lot of headroom. I could run plus 280 on the core and get 4,700 points on Port Royal, which is up from 4,300.
Not bad. I mean, it's not great, but it's pretty decent.
But yeah, I'm still, regardless of stock or plus 280, I'm hitting a power limit of 75 watts. So it really wasn't too bad. But it was an interesting experience, and I've been thinking about doing it since I got the laptop. I'm glad I did and got the full experience from it.
So Andrew, have we learned we do not do the bad with the BIOS on the GPU on a laptop?
What do you guys think? Sound off in the chat if you think I should do the 130 watt BIOS.
Oh my god. It's almost double what you currently have.
I know. I feel like it's gonna like blow a fuse if anything. So
I think if you did that, it'll probably work fine. But as soon as you overload it, or as soon as you put a load on it, it'll just turn off because it's like I can't even. It's like running a computer with an undersized power supply. I don't think the circuits are designed to give it double what it's asking for. What's the total TDP of your power brick? 100?
I think 280.
280. Okay, might be able to handle it.
Yeah, they give you a good size power brick for this, even though like the TDP of the CPU plus GPU is only like 100 or 120.
Yeah, so let's catch up on chat real quick. So Zuyan Jung says, my MSI G76 Raider 3080 150 watt TDP laptop. So that you guys probably know I have a Razer Blade Pro 17. It's got a 3080 in it, but it's the castrated 3080. It's only got 8 gigs of RAM. It's limited to 100 watts, all that. So his 3080 is actually pretty nice because it's only limited to 150. Ziyun Jung, let us know if it is the 10 gigabyte, 8 gigabyte, or 12 gigabyte variant.
I think all the 3080 mobiles are 8.
I think they are, but I know I don't know if they just changed the TDP and kept the memory the same. I'm not sure.
So
this generation is really confusing on what is what. Like a 3080 castrated is just as powerful as a 3060 non-castrated.
Right. So in a lot of cases, like a 3060 with 130 watt TDP can outperform a 3070 at least, or even probably sometimes a 3080. I think 3080s are as low as 80 watt varieties.
Yeah, mine's limited to 100, which is, I mean, come on. I'd rather just have like a 3060 in there at full TDP.
Just flash the BIOS, man. Get that 150.
No, it's a $3,000 laptop. No, I am not screwing with. I will never do that to my Razer Blade. I may mine on it all day and night, but I'll never do that.
I did mine on this 3060, and it was super efficient. I can't remember if I was hitting a power limit or not. So I'm wondering if were you getting that 90 watt BIOS would have helped. Oh man, I don't remember. I think I was getting like 42.
That's actually pretty decent.
Yeah, at 75 watts.
42,000 renders per second in deep machine learning, right?
Blender cycles, yeah.
Blender cycles, that's right. Yeah, I'm limited to 50 Blender cycles per second.
Right. All right. What else we got in chat?
Let's see here. Magic Lucky. Magic Lucky says, I did a BIOS flash to a desktop mobile recently with no UPS. I live dangerously. I use SATA to PCIe cable. Okay, I get it. I live dangerously. Not I use SATA to PCIe cable dangerously, though.
All right.
Huh? What?
I said I hear you.
So I've actually BIOS flashed many graphics cards in my lifetime. Most recently, about 2 years ago, for the deep machine learning render rig, the Rainbow rig with the 5700 XT Liquid Devils. I BIOS flashed all of those. Well, it's more of a BIOS modification, actually. I didn't really change the BIOS to something else. I just adjusted it. And I actually bricked one of them. But did you know, if you start the computer with another card that works, you can still access the broken card and just put the right BIOS on it? I don't recommend this because it's scary as hell, because you get a, $400, well, at the time, $400, $600 card that won't start. But yeah, you gotta use a UPS, man. That's kind of scary. I would never do that, Magic Lucky.
Well, I mean, I've done it all which ways, every which way, but nowadays with motherboards with BIOS flashback ports, I don't worry nearly as much. And I think that should just become like standard equipment on everything, honestly. Especially when we've seen the issues with like Ryzen motherboards not supporting the chips that are like, you go to Micro Center and there's an X570 board, but it came out before the 5000 series. So if you buy the two, they don't work out of the box. But if every motherboard just had BIOS flashback, you could update that with a flash drive once you get home and it boots right up. I think every motherboard should have that, not only for that reason, but yeah, when you have a BIOS flash that goes bad, not everyone has a UPS. The motherboard manufacturers will usually take the RMA and just flash it for you, but that's like an unnecessary hassle.
That's also like a month.
Yeah,
from
exactly.
Submitting the RMA
exactly.
to getting your board back. Like
Right.
actually.
So, yeah. So, and there's really nothing you can do at that point if you don't have BIOS flashback, unless you're trying to use an EEPROM programmer, which is crazy.
Okay, crypto shape.
No, I've done that. I did that with a Dell motherboard, but that's how I got Ryzen 2000 series support on a motherboard that never got a BIOS update for it. But anyway, yeah, I just think BIOS flashback is like such a useful feature. I don't know how much extra it actually would cost to add that to every board.
$6.69.
Yeah, but it's on boards that aren't necessarily super expensive. It's not like an exclusive feature.
Well, on
It's
top of
just
it, all the
like-
hardware is already there. Like, just gotta add like a button, basically.
I'm sure there's like an 8-pin chip that does the actual flashing. But yeah, like you don't need a CPU even.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, there's dual BIOS. There's plenty of dual BIOS motherboards. That's essentially what it is. It's just diverting to a different BIOS that will bypass the CPU. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you don't need a CPU to run a BIOS on a computer. The basic input-output system, the only calculations it's doing is entering data, essentially. But
Right.
I don't know. I honestly think that maybe this is probably logistically challenging, but like, let's say it's a Micro Center or Best Buy, they should just update all their motherboards and give you the freshest BIOS whenever you buy it. Or at least make that an option, like a checkbox, like, yes, I want my BIOS updated before purchase or something like that.
I want to say Micro Center does it as a free service optionally.
If you buy one, maybe, but I know if you need one, they charge $25.
If you need one, what?
So if I just happen to have a motherboard and I need a BIOS flash, they charge $25.
Okay.
And if it's your motherboard that's broken, then they'll still charge you $25. A viewer actually told me that he went to go get his motherboard BIOS flash because it wasn't starting with the new chip. Then it later turned out his motherboard was broken, so they still charged him. In other words, it didn't work.
Okay.
The BIOS flash didn't work.
Yeah.
Luckily, they tested it before they went out. So let's just catch up on chat. Then we'll start going into our topics for the night.
Yep.
Let's see. So Chu Yangzhong says the 3080 150 watt gets 65 mega cycles per second. That's actually really good. I only get 50 mega cycles per second.
Yeah, but that's good efficiency.
Yeah, it's really good efficiency at 150. That's basically 0.5 efficiency, almost.
Yeah.
Magic Lucky's saying he cheated. All right, so Fixation 500 says my wife's Razer battery exploded. It looks like a blowfish. Yeah. So for real quick, I'm just gonna touch on this and we'll move on like less than a minute. The earlier, like the first 5 years of Razer blades were just crap. I mean, like it was Chinese engineering at its best, which is really bad. They had a lot of battery issues, a lot of reliability, quality control. Like I think something like 10% of all Razer blades ever made in the first 5 years failed for one reason or another, which is freaking horrible, right? Like you got a one out of 10 chance that this thing's not gonna work, like permanently bricked, right? So they've gotten a lot better over the years. In the last 5 years, they made the most improvements, in my opinion. When they went to the unibody chassis, that was not that weird curvy one. That's when they started getting a lot better. Yeah, so you can actually request to Razer to have that battery fixed. I think it might be too late now, but that was a thing that they did to fix that. All right, so I'll read this last thing from Magic Lucky. Actually, Andrew, do you want to read that while I look at something?
Yeah, so he said he had to flash his because Newegg is still shipping B450s with old BIOSes that won't support 5000 series CPUs out of the box in 2022, but it is Newegg. I don't think there were any B450s. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there were any B450s that shipped 5000 series ready out of the box, because by the time they stopped manufacturing them, the 5000 series wasn't quite out yet. So it's probably old stock regardless. But yeah, you had to use an old CPU then to flash it to the latest BIOS, I assume. That's always a pain just because, well, remember AMD was doing the loan a CPU program to loan you an old CPU.
They technically still do that.
Yeah, do they?
Technically.
But they used to be doing it with
really.
like a super basic CPU on, because like when you got B450, I forget which chipset it was, but they were sending you like a Zen 1 CPU. So a lot of the newer motherboards don't support Zen 1 CPUs anymore.
Or
anyway.
Zen 2.
Exactly. So you mean Zen Plus?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that.
I'm just gonna have a quick rant. Don't call it Zen Plus. Just call it Zen 2.5 or Zen 3, Zen 4, 5,
we
6.
Have Zen 1, we have Zen Plus, we have Zen 2, we have Zen 3. Wait,
Zen 3 plus plus, Zen 3
Why
plus
didn't
squared.
They just call Zen Plus, Zen 2. Well, okay, I understand.
Can we just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
They should have said 1.5.
That would have made way more sense. Plus is
1.
so
5.
ambiguous.
Exactly.
What the hell does the plus mean? Two lines like this? I don't what? I don't know. Has like no, I don't know. Okay, so plus could literally at least in mathematical terms, it just means more, right? It doesn't like addition. It doesn't mean any value. Yeah.
So, I'm wondering if they're gonna change. They're gonna refer to the architecture of the 5800X 3D in any specific way, because that's Zen 3, but it has the 3D cache.
Yeah, that's gonna be nice because then we're gonna have more motherboards that don't work.
Yeah, I mean that's the way it seems. It seems like they're gonna need to release a special BIOS to support it. Otherwise, it probably, I don't know. That raises a good question, because if that comes out, all the motherboards on the shelf next to it don't support it out of the box. What happens?
They're gonna have to take them all back and flash them, or at least put a sticker on it or something saying you need this. Oh, I got a better idea. Why don't we ship new CPUs with the old CPU, and then you get a credit back when you return it?
So I don't know. I'm thinking they must have considered this. Maybe it will just work with the regular BIOS enough to boot, and they encourage you to flash to a new BIOS.
Oh, you mean like they kind of put it into the microcode, like without telling anyone? It's like already
like they're
there.
Using old microcode for the new CPU, maybe. I don't know. It seems like it wouldn't work that way, but otherwise I feel like they're going to have huge issues at launch.
Oh, they're going to have issues. Every time they have a new CPU, remember back when new CPU, new socket, right?
Yeah. Well,
now we're just
pretty standard, yeah.
Yeah, now it's, I mean, I get it. It's cheaper, backwards, all that stuff, but like, you know, for like new consumers that have no idea what's going on.
This isn't exactly new. If you consider AMD's Socket A, which I believe came out in about 2000, they came out with AMD, I want to say Athlon. Athlon might have come after Duron. And they had Athlon and Duron simultaneously. And then they had Athlon XP, and they were very different CPUs, and they were not necessarily backwards compatible because they had different front side bus speeds. Yeah, wow, that's going back. But yeah, they were all on the same socket, even though they weren't necessarily backwards compatible or forwards compatible for that reason. But yeah, AMD basically, I think they're getting close to an ecosystem of processors that makes sense. Like, it would be great to have a socket that lasts multiple generations if the socket can support multiple generations. Like B350 motherboards are not inherently bad. They just don't support the latest CPUs now, even though they're AM4. And they might end up supporting the latest CPUs with beta BIOSes and all that. But there was nothing really wrong, and there's nothing really special about like X570 or B550 that makes it 1,000 times better than B350 or X570, or rather X370. It's just a new CPU, new chipset, whatever. It adds some features, PCI Express Gen 4, etc., keeping with the times. Yeah, I don't know. If the next generation starts with PCIe Gen 5, I don't see why it couldn't last 5 years, 6 years.
Well, I mean, we've been on Gen 3 for a long time, so I would...
Well, yeah, Gen 4 came out with the X570.
Yeah, that's
AMD.
right. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so let's catch up on chat. What's up?
I said that didn't last long because Intel didn't get Gen 4 support, right? Until like the current platform, which also has Gen 5 support.
I think they got Gen... I have to go look that up. I don't know. I think it was 11th gen where they got 4.0, because I know they didn't have it in 10th. 10th gen, they didn't have it, which was kind of weird.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so let's finish up with chat real quick and move on to our first subject of the night.
Yeah, let's get started on that.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just talking about BIOS flashing stuff. CPPC Tech, how you doing, man? Welcome to the live stream. Thanks for joining us, man. You're always here. Appreciate you being here, man. All right, so we're gonna go into our first subject for the night, guys, and that is gonna be delivered by Andrew. Ubisoft Cloud Computing, Larger Open Worlds.
Yeah, so Ubisoft has announced a new game production tool, and they're calling it Ubisoft Scaler. And basically what they're saying this new technology does is it focuses on using cloud computing to help develop and test games, taking away the limitation of time or hardware available to the actual developers working on the game. So the proposed result is the ability to create games that are bigger and more social than previous Ubisoft titles, and allowing new types of games to be produced. It will allow more players to exist in the same shared world, and it is now considered a central technology to Ubisoft and is available to all of the Ubisoft studios working on games. And we don't yet know when we will see the first game leveraging this new tool, but they are saying that new projects are already using it. So basically the idea behind it is to use cloud computing as like the back end of game development, so that when developers are testing a game, they're not limited to the hardware of the computer they're actually using to work on the game. They're using cloud computing, which scales, somewhat infinitely, to have more horsepower essentially to run the game, be more efficient, because just like, I guess, in video editing, part of game development is just sitting around waiting for things to compile, for things to render. So by having cloud computing be a part of game development, then that process not only becomes more efficient and less time consuming, but it creates this ability to have these open worlds be just infinitely larger than what a computer can process. They use cloud computing for these worlds that no computer could essentially process on its own. So what that's going to allow for is, I guess, games with these giant worlds that are being processed by cloud computers while they're still running the rendering and all that stuff on their local devices. So it should be interesting. I mean, they're saying this will allow for more social interactions because there'll be more players in a single world. We've pretty much seen that capped around what, like 64 players before. I mean that, and I feel like that's reaching.
Yeah, they were able to, depending on the type of game, they're able to make it even higher nowadays, like hundreds.
I mean, I know that there's no real like, there's no like hard limit, but what we see typically is probably around like 32 to 64 maybe.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty average. Nowadays you got PUBG and all that, where you got hundreds of people. I mean, the way they fix that, I mean, as you were saying, is that the actual game is running on a server. All you have is a connection to send ones and zeros, telling the game where you are, right?
Right.
So regarding what you were just saying, CPPC Tech has an interesting question for you. I'm gonna go check that in chat. He says, could they use it to make a racing game with a real scale map, like being able to race from city to city?
Oh boy. Well, here's the thing. As much as that's been like a dream of mine since like forever, how cool that would be, I don't think that's in the near future. I think
that's a lot of resources to load.
Well, one game that kind of does something similar is Microsoft Flight Simulator, where you can fly from one point of the world to another in like actual scale, actual space, actual landmarks rendering, loading in, stuff like that. But the thing is, they're not graphically intensive assets. They look great from, elevation, because you're flying
30,000 feet in the air.
Yeah, so they look amazing from a distance, but then up close you realize it's just really not great. For a racing game, I'm sure they could do the exact same thing, and it would just look really bad by modern standards, because we're going to be looking at like a photorealistic car, which is where racing game tech is at pretty much. But then we're going to have these like terrible environments because they have to be lower quality to have that much data available.
All that throughput.
Yeah, so I think racing games will be kept to making existing tracks more available, like having a bigger library of actual race tracks. For like city maps, they can do that as well, but I still feel like they're going to have walls around it so that they only have to focus on a certain amount of basically they, like when Project Gotham Racing came out, they had a New York track, and that was like amazing. It looked great, but you had boundaries so that things in the distance still looked okay, but they didn't have to put that much effort into making those things because they're in the distance. So yeah, I mean,
how about they do it Minecraft style?
Yeah, honestly, I think it would look better Minecraft style than if they tried to make like it look decent.
I mean, like the car will be photorealistic, but like the environment will be like Minecraft.
Yeah. 16-bit. Exactly. I feel like that would be just as much fun,
Oh, I got a better idea actually. So how I just thought of this. You know how in Flight Sim you can use real like public available API data to put traffic in the sky and everything, right?
Yeah.
What if we just use AI in some roundabout way, I'm just making this up here, and traffic cams to render real-time worlds? Oh,
so you want the game to be
just copy what's in real life. That way they don't have to actually create traffic. No, that's something. No, I'm just like, that way they don't have to create assets all the time, like randomly generated. They could just copy what's in real life. Yeah. So it just virtualizes it.
Yeah, I honestly, Flight Sim was made heavily with AI assistance, and I think that would be a necessary component of making a game like that in the future.
Yeah, just have
There's no way that like game studios are going to have the resources to have all of those decisions made by a person.
No, or a single computer for that matter. It's going to have to be data input response. There's no way. Not when you're flying at 600 miles an hour or whatever it is, 300 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be pretty cool. I think it's awesome. I hope that this is a good way to go and it doesn't become like another way to get into our pockets, because now potentially there's going to be no offline option at all for all games. If that was the case, you would have to be connected to some kind of network to get that data.
To be clear, part of this is exclusively just for development, making games with cloud computing strictly from a development standpoint, and that it won't affect gameplay. You know, it might be a single player game anyway, but they're using cloud computing just to have more power available to the dev. So not necessarily going to be cloud. It's not like game streaming. It's more like what would a game developer do if they had an infinitely powerful computer rather than, you know, a Threadripper and a 3090 to work with.
I mean, when it comes down to it, though, it's not necessarily the hardware, but it's the game developer's talent, right? So. Oh,
absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. I just mean like if you took the best game developer.
Yeah. So if you paired the hardware with the personnel, I think it could be amazing, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have anything else on that, Andrew? Because I'm gonna go on to some sketchy XFX stuff.
Yeah. What do you got?
All right, so let me just put a timestamp here. So that's what are we at right now? 56:17. So, for those of you that don't know, XFX is a video card company. They primarily only make AMD cards. Not because they don't like NVIDIA, but I think NVIDIA would have higher standards so they can do stuff like they've been doing. According to video,
well, okay.
Well, higher standards of money. How about that?
Okay. They like to do this kind of thing more directly.
Yes. It's kind of like just a real offshoot. There's this Family Guy episode where there's a lady and a guy, and he pays her money. She's like dressed not very good. And he's like, all right, let's do it. Then the police barge in. It's like, we got you red-handed for prostitution. And he goes, no, there's a camera. We're filming a porn, so it's totally legal. And then the cops go, oh, well, as long as you're filming, I guess it's legal, so we'll be gone.
There you go. Yep.
So that's kind of what it reminds me of when it comes to NVIDIA. Anyways, so XFX is doing some sketchy stuff. All right, so according to video cards, they've been allegedly selling to crypto mining companies most of its stock of the RX 580s, 8GB, RX 590s, 8GB, RX 5600 XTs, and the 5700 XT graphics cards directly to the crypto miners. Oh my God, those people, instead of the retailers. So that is what's been allegedly going on, but here's what we can confirm has happened. Chinese customs recently has seized 5,840 mislabeled GPUs worth $3 million over what they put on the invoice for export and import taxes. Now, this is, I would say it's uncommon. I would say it's common for a lot of Chinese companies to purposely put the wrong value on things. In fact, with the product that I was, I'm gonna be really careful about this. A product that I've had an experience with that I received, they forgot to take off the customs and imports label on it. And when I got it, it said 1/4 of the value of what I paid.
Yeah.
That's all I can really say about that. But yes, so I've seen this more than once myself. So yeah, the Chinese news site My Drivers shared a rumor that they are taking back, so this is XFX, the rumor is that they are taking back mining cards and selling them as new. The part that they're selling them as new is bad. If they're taking them back and refurbishing whatever and selling them with full disclosure, that's fine, because you know what you're buying and it's not a lie. But if they're taking them back, rebadging them or whatever, cleaning them up, acid dipping them and selling them as new, that is not kosher, okay? So this has been kind of an ongoing theme, especially when there is this weird crypto, this fake internet money stuff. I don't know a lot about it. This cryptocurrency stuff, this internet boom, right? When all that stuff goes high in the sky, GPU manufacturers start doing more and more like ruthless things. We've seen with NVIDIA, and their newest flagship card costs more than... So, oh god, our 3090 flagship card is $1,000 less than a Titan, so it's a good deal. You know, so they start doing stuff like that, and then other companies see the profit potential and start, you know, doing crazy stuff. So they seize these GPUs, but remember, guys, mining is illegal in China, and a lot of cryptocurrency stuff is also illegal. So the customs has all these GPUs and all that, which, you know, I don't know exactly to the extent of the damage that XFX has received, but what is confirmed is that the Chinese-based websites are down, as in they went offline, and some of the US-based ones are also down and has gone offline. Sales of the XFX cards has also either been halted or been reduced, but there's still XFX stock in the United States that's still available, because remember, after it leaves XFX hands, it doesn't matter. If I was Best Buy selling it, just because this happened to them doesn't mean I can't sell it. So, what does this mean for us? Well, technically, it could mean more cards. So now those gamers out there desperate for those frames can definitely get their cards. The crackdown on mining also means more cards. And since companies are finally getting caught doing these bad things, maybe they'll do less of it, or maybe they'll just pay the fine and do a Ford Pinto. You know, do the calculation and be like, "Yep, we're still making money, so this is the cost of doing business." For those of you that don't know, Ford did the calculation and said it was cheaper to pay off lawsuits of dead people than to actually fix the problem of recalling all their cards, which came back and bit them hard time back in the day. So that is what XFX is doing. Let me just read up on chat, then I'll get your response, Andrew.
Yeah.
All right, so let me see here. Magic Lucky says XFX is headquartered in California. They ship the GPUs to China. Just use the code word friend in all your correspondence. Oh, that's funny. The Fixation 500 says miners or minors save the children. MC says, man, I remember the XFX thick 5700 XTs were like $250 to $300 in late 2020, 2021. Yes, I got most of my 5700 XT Liquid Devils for $550 back in the day. Mining miners, so children that mine. That's funny. Yeah, so Andrew, what do you think about XFX getting caught red-handed and them probably not going to change anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised they even still have 580s. Are they still in production? Damn.
Well,
that card is from like 2017. That's like a 5-year-old card.
Yeah, so that just full disclosure, that specific video cards article was dated in 2020, but is relevant today because all this stuff is coming up. So okay, yeah, it is now. So at the time, it was a 4-year-old card.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think shady business practices are going to be exclusive to XFX or the tech industry in any sense. It's just, yeah, sometimes they get caught. You know, it probably comes down to like 1 or 2 people in the company, and the whole company is going to get a bad brand for it. But
just like with Newegg.
Yeah, exactly.
There's just 1 or 2 people that were doing all the bad stuff. No one else.
I mean, I kind of think that leadership is the biggest problem with any company.
Yeah.
Like if there's a problem within the company, it usually can trace it back to leadership. So, and we're not talking about it, but that other custom PC company that everyone else is talking about.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to get into that until I have more info. That's why we haven't reported on it. I'm kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop because it's still kind of ambiguous as to exactly what happened. Because there's
I think a lot of coverage is people talking about what other people talked about. Yeah.
Well,
but the live stream is transparent enough.
Yeah, the California tax people got involved, so now it's serious.
Okay.
So because of that reason
right.
is why I'm not really getting into it yet, because now there's like legal stuff getting involved, which it means it's no longer a news story, it's a criminal case. So
Yeah.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
for those
So
of you that are
XFX.
real
Oh yeah.
quick, for those of you that are wondering about that, we'll talk about that when we have more information. I know it's a hot topic right now, but the reason why at least I haven't been mentioning is because it's kind of messy. It's very difficult to digest.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah. So XFX, they've been around a while now. Man, I had my first XFX card was a Radeon 5750. It was the first generation of
Wow.
iFinity, which meant you could play a single game across 3 monitors. It was pretty wild.
What was that, 6 years ago?
It was like 10 years ago. I don't know. It was so long ago.
Oh, the OG 500 series, not the new 500 series.
5000 series.
Yeah.
The OG 5000 series.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, man. But yeah, I got an XFX card back then to go with like a dual core AMD CPU.
Is
so
that the
puts
cards
it in
that were
perspective.
really long? It had like graphics on the shroud, right? Had like mermaids
This
and
one
like
wasn't.
goblins.
This was like a mid-range card.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sure it had graphics of some sort, but it was a mid-range card, so it wasn't that big. But yeah, XFX, I don't think of them as like a super premium company anyway. So
They're a
having
commodity
these
company.
having these sort of like maybe gray market practices doesn't particularly surprise me. Back alley deals, that kind of thing. Yeah, I'm not particularly shocked here. What I think is going to happen is, yeah, there'll be maybe some legal issues that they have to face, and then it'll go back to business as usual. And, being more tight-lipped about it. I don't think there's going to be that much outcry from the communities that XFX sells GPUs to. I don't think gamers are going to be like, oh my God, they're such a terrible company. I'm going to buy Sapphire cards only. I just don't think it matters that much to the consumer.
Well,
and I'm not being like...
I was going to say on top of that, SFXX, I can't say it. XFX does not have like a MSI or ASUS ROG or EVGA like community like behind it. Not that I'm aware of.
Right. So I feel like, not saying that what they did was okay or right or whatever, but I just don't think it's... Exactly. I'm condoning it. I think, no, but I think they're just going to try and keep that stuff under wraps more in the future. I don't think they're going to be like this company that does everything by the book. I think they saw opportunities to make money, and if the lines regarding the law were blurred, they were like, well, maybe we can, just tilt that a little bit to our advantage and go for it. And that seems to be what they did anyway. I don't know. I mean, $3 million is not a lot of money for a company like that. So it makes me think that this is not the first time they've done it. It's the first time they've got caught. And I think this was probably just part of their business for the last year or two at least.
Yeah, I would say that this is not unique to XFX. I would say almost every company that ships out of China does some form of it, whether it be illegal or the edge of illegal. In fact, I know a lot of companies in the United States that do edge of illegal.
Right.
At least that's what I call it. You're right up to the the edge of being illegal. All right, so yeah, that's all I got for about that. So just remember, guys, if you do have an XFX, what was that one card that's silver? Radeon 7, right? And if it breaks, well, that's just too bad. Thanks for your money. All right, so Andrew, moving on to our next topic. Apparently, Windows 11's got some sketchy ads or something in the Explorer. What's going on with that?
So ads within Windows are nothing new. We've seen lock screen ads for years and often see suggestions to check out Microsoft Edge, despite repeatedly telling it that we're not interested in checking out Microsoft Edge. we're happy with Chrome, we're
I
happy
broke up
with
with you for a reason,
Firefox,
okay?
whatever we're
Stop talking to
using.
me.
Yeah, and they tried to pull a fast one and say, no, it's not Internet Explorer, it's Edge. But
It's also based
okay.
on Chromium now, so
Honestly, I don't really have that much against Edge. I have more against the push to use it. So if they didn't constantly suggest using Edge, I probably would use it natively. With that being said, I don't use Edge. So recent reports have stated that ads have found themselves into Windows File Explorer on some Windows 11 PCs. Microsoft has responded in saying that this was a mistake. The ads were suggesting users check out Microsoft Editor, which is an AI-powered writing assistant that can aid in spelling and grammar checks within, I guess, the Microsoft Office suite, like Microsoft
and
Word.
give you some ads.
And but Microsoft says these ads were never intended for public release or to be published externally. While the function was technically in the code, it was turned off. So how this ended up, how this ended up on anyone's computer, I'm not really sure. I'm not sure. It didn't end up on mine, at least. Maybe it's some combination of software has to be installed, because I definitely don't have Office on my computer, so Microsoft Editor, as far as I know, would not be something I could use. But that being said, yeah, I mean, it's not exactly an ad, but it is promoting its own other program in a program that, File Explorer, it's a pretty straightforward application. You use it to explore files and folders. You don't really need...
Is that all it's for?
I don't know. Exploring files, yeah.
Wow.
It's in the name, just like Task Manager is to manage tasks.
Can you make files with it too?
What?
Can you make files with it too?
I think if you right click, there's some really cool stuff you can do. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't feel like it's a huge violation. And the fact that Microsoft isn't doubling down and being like, yeah, that's just what you have to get used to. You don't have a choice. And then having someone else have to figure out how to edit the registry. That's not the situation here. They said it was a mistake and that it's not the future of Windows 11.
Not yet.
But it's, it just gives you some insight into what they're working on.
Yeah.
And that, they're, was this a mistake, or was this like a small sample test to see how people would react to it? You know what I mean?
Hey, you know that feature we've been looking on? Let's put it on the next update and claim it's a mistake later on.
Exactly, yeah.
Sounds like something like remember like when like a new phone's about to come and there's like a leak? And like remember the story Apple gave for years? Like one of their engineers went to a bar, they left it on the counter, and then there just happened to be a news like person there and they picked it up. Right. Like that those stories from back in the day. Oh man.
That's great, man. Before the lock screen.
Oh, I hate ads on the lock screen. I will never buy an Amazon
Windows?
device. On Windows? No,
Windows
I have that turned off.
Okay.
Yeah, I've turned off completely. I don't like that. Unless I'm getting paid, I don't like it.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. I think all Microsoft, all the Windows ads within, all the ads within Windows are promoting Microsoft products. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think I don't think they're charging other companies. They're just self-promoting, basically.
I mean, I don't know. You kind of get onto the edge of monopoly, right? But yeah, I would say basically everything I've seen has been promoting other Microsoft products.
Yeah. So this being, I don't know, man. I feel weird about it, but at the same time, there's so many people that will see something like this and be like, that's why I use Linux. That's why I'll never use Windows, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's totally fine. I think that's totally fine, because if Windows does take it further and further and further and pushes their own stuff and makes it harder to use my computer the way I want to use it, sure, I can use a different operating system. That's my choice, just as it's technically Microsoft's choice to release the operating system the way they release it. So that's why, I think they basically use the community's feedback on situations like this as a gauge of what they can and can't get away with in future releases.
I mean, allegedly. We don't actually know if this was an accident.
No, I'm saying, not saying that this was on purpose to do that, but I'm saying regardless of if it was a mistake or not, they use the information based on the community to decide what is reasonable for them to do and get away with, essentially, in terms of how much they can push these products within Windows. Or just, I think Microsoft is a company that listens to the consumer. They're very focused on themselves, but they listen to the consumer. So I don't fully understand some of their choices. Like, why can't I right-click the taskbar in Windows 11 to open up the task manager? I don't know.
Because you press Control-Delete.
No, Control-Alt-Delete takes you to the lock screen. You can press Control-Shift-Escape to open up the task manager.
Oh, obviously. That's so intuitive. I would have never thought of
that. Right. So,
let's
anyway.
Let's catch up on chat, then move on to the next subject here. So,
sure.
Fixation 500 says, I fully support sketchy business practices. Then he goes, I rather use Dolphin than Edge. Dolphin, man, I haven't heard of that browser in a long time. Soul 7.
Really remember it.
Yeah, it was a browser from way back when, I think. Then it kind of died. Microsoft decided it didn't need to exist. Soul 7 says, I use QDIR instead of File Explorer. I don't know what that is. Fixation 500 says, Windows 3.1 File Manager.
I'll look into that. I mean, maybe it's pretty good if it's on the third iteration.
John Z smashed that like button. Yes, thank you, John Z.
Oh, yep. Let me do that.
Yeah, Andrew, how do you always forget to smash the like button?
I'm sorry, man.
How do we always have more people watching than we have likes? Let's see. CPPC Tech says, if you enable ads, they should pay you. Yes, I'm actually a very big proponent of that. So, just a quick rant here. Facebook makes X amount of money. If they were to divide all that money amongst all of its active users, we should be getting a check.
We'd all be billionaires, right?
No, we wouldn't be billionaires, but we're getting like $50 a month. Like, actually, like, $20 to $50 a month on average. Like, I'm talking about active users, not registered users. About 1/8 of Facebook is bots. So, hey, John Germain, welcome to the live stream. Thanks for catching us live. Yes, thanks, man. Soul 7 says, Microsoft listen to us. Do they do what they want? I do what I want.
Yeah, no, I mean, what I'm saying is they use the information that we give them. They therefore listen to us to better aid themselves and make decisions that benefit themselves.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day,
and that might be giving us what we want so that they're in a better light, but it's still strictly for themselves.
Yeah. All right, I'll read this last thing from Magic Lucky. Andrew's too young to get a Windows 3.1 joke, apparently. That's pre-Windows 95, buddy.
I know.
Were you even alive in 95? Yeah, you were alive.
95 was my first operating system.
I was alive in 95, but I wasn't
hands-on with.
But I wasn't recording anything in my brain yet. I think I was still eating worms or something.
And then I got the upgrade to 98 disc, and it all went downhill from there.
I think my first operating system, when I actually got into computers, was 2000, Windows 2000, I think.
2000.
Yeah,
okay.
I think so. A long time ago.
That was a great operating system because it was like the end of the era before XP, where it made everything stylized, and people were like, "Oh, that's too much."
Man, I need a graphics card just to run my operating system.
Yeah, man.
Okay, all right. So, do you have anything else about that, Andrew?
No.
Okay, so let's move on to our next subject. Let me just put the timestamp in right here. All right, guys, this thing is pretty exciting for a person like me because it's about CPUs and the amazingness. All right, so for those of you that don't know, Andrew did talk about this on a previous podcast. I'm just going to go into more of the surface level, higher level, and really, really deep low level things kind of avoid the mid-range. So AMD Threadripper 5000 Pro WX. It is in fact coming. Let me go over some specs. It is in fact going to be based off the Zen 3 architecture with all of its benefits on power efficiency. They claim they claim this, so it's probably half in real application. 67% less power per core, with up to double the performance per power ratio on competing solutions like Intel products and other things like that. What do you get with Threadripper versus your standard consumer platform? Well, the Threadripper platform has always been about trying to go up and above the desktop platform, but not really getting into like the epic CPUs. So what do you get? You get more PCIe lanes. You get a whopping 128 versus 16. You get up to 2 terabytes on this platform, by the way, not the previous one, up to 2 terabytes of DDR4 memory, because this is all about like lots of throughput, right? It's not necessarily about speed. And there's a few other things like the IO's improved, you get better power delivery, stuff like that, and the chip is a little bit bigger. Actually, it's a lot bigger.
To clarify, we're talking specifically Threadripper Pro here, which is not the same platform as Threadripper.
That is correct. Yes, Threadripper Pro is going to be on a different platform, and I don't think they're backwards compatible. I think it's the TRS-4X or whatever socket.
They're different. They're different platforms. They're not compatible whatsoever.
Yeah,
so
they're not.
The CPUs look very similar because they're essentially the same CPUs, but different features are enabled and disabled to kind of separate the lineup. So yeah, like you said, 2 terabyte is the maximum memory support of Threadripper Pro, while quote unquote desktop Threadripper would be 256 gig.
Exactly, 256 gig is the desktop equivalent max. Now, I don't have I have only 128 gigabytes, and I find that's more than enough for everything I need right now. I haven't really need the need to go further than that. Some new features that are coming to the Threadripper Pro 5000 series platform. We got AMD Memory Guard, and encrypts your memory to prevent physical attacks on sensitive data. So there's like a lot of attacks that on computers these days. This type of attack actually goes into the memory and captures the stored memory files, because before it was just open. It was just memory. It's just temporary, right? They also have this new thing called Shadow Stack, an innovative set of hardware protections built into the processor to help mitigate a common type of malware attack by preventing memory modification for instructions. So, for example, it's stored in memory. Oh, get me this bit. Okay, well, I'm going to go in and change that. No, give me that other bit, then give it to me, right? So this is supposed to prevent that. And there's a few other things. And of course, Trusted Platform Module, their version or whatever of it is also enabled somehow. I'm not exactly sure about that because it's such a, it's going to be a standard thing in the future.
Yeah.
So the first computer that's going to be available with this new 5000 series Threadripper Pro platform is going to be the Lenovo ThinkStation P620. And it's like a desktop computer that's supposed to be a workstation. And so you guys might be wondering, so like, why do I care about Threadripper, right? Why, I'm just going to stay with desktop. Well, here's where it gets kind of interesting. Started coming out with initially 5 variations. Of course, we're going to have more later on. But at the top of the stack, we got the 5995X. Okay, so 5995. Okay, that gives you 128 threads at 64 cores, 4.5 gigahertz boost with a base of 2.7. Okay, 280 watt TDP, pretty standard stuff, nothing too crazy. 2 terabytes of ECC memory support, and that's error correcting code, so you got the good memory. Now here's where it gets interesting. They've introduced 2 lower end variants. The Threadripper Pro, I'm not going to say the number, it's going to be kind of hard to understand. So it's just 16 cores, 32 threads, which for those that are keen-eyed among you would know that 16 cores and 32 threads has been available for over a year now on the 5950X on the desktop platform. So why would you need to spend more money on this? Well, first of all, you get more base cache, right? So that's pretty nice. You get 128 PCIe lanes. You get more I/O support, and you get up to 2 terabytes of ECC memory, which you currently cannot do on the regular desktop. The one below that is a 12-core, 24-thread CPU, so like a 5900X, right? Same deal, 128 lanes, 70 megabytes, 2 megabytes less of cache, and all that good stuff. So that's the part I find the most interesting, that they're releasing a product that's on a next level platform with less cores, less threads than what's on the desktop platform, which may not be a big deal, but this is really going to be like blurring the lines between like commercial, like Threadripper platform and your regular desktop computer. But I mean, it also costs a lot of money, right? You're talking $500 to $1,000 just for the privilege of using that platform, like a premium. So
Yeah.
what do you think about all that, Andrew? That's a lot of stuff I just said.
Well, the Ryzen Threadripper Pro 3000 series, which used Zen 2, they also had 12 and 16 core variants of those chips.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest thing for Threadripper Pro is you get more PCI Express lanes, you can have more I/O, you have more memory bandwidth because it's quad channel. I think, is Threadripper Pro quad channel or is it 8-channel memory? I can't recall.
It's Octa or whatever.
Yeah,
wait.
Threadripper.
I gotta double check that. While I'm checking that,
I would
continue.
have to check as well. Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but either way, you have significantly higher memory bandwidth than desktop platforms. And I think even if it's marginal, I think with the lower core counts, you're going to have higher core frequency. So it really depends on your workload, but
We can support Octa-channel.
Exactly. So that's a huge amount more memory bandwidth.
Yeah.
And I think AMD wouldn't be releasing new Zen 3 12 and 16 core CPUs, Threadripper Pro CPUs, if the 12 and 16 core Zen 2 versions didn't sell well. I think some people I don't know, I think they just need a computer to do certain tasks, and maybe regular Threadripper would have done it, but there really isn't a Threadripper not Pro in an OEM configuration. So if like you're a studio or a business having to buy computers for your staff, and you have the Lenovo lineup, you have either Ryzen desktop chips, which I'm not really sure if they sell desktops with like 5950Xs from Lenovo, but you can always get some OEM that does.
Mm-hmm.
But they're more like gaming focused computers. If you get a workstation line, you're either getting the Ryzen Pro, which is the same limitations of the Ryzen desktop chips, or you're stepping up to Threadripper Pro. There wasn't the middle ground of Threadripper in a workstation enclosure OEM ready to go out of the box kind of deal. Threadripper non-Pro was always enthusiast line, custom built computers.
Almost like the X series for Intel.
Exactly.
HED, high-end desktop platform.
Right. So you wouldn't necessarily go with those unless you're like a high-end consumer.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a business, you're probably going with Xeons.
Yeah.
So
you would just go right to server.
Yeah, well, Xeons are workstation based as well. They have server chips as well, but like the difference here is like Intel kind of says the Core i whatever is desktop, and then if you throw the X on it, it's high-end desktop. Then there's Xeon workstations, then there's Xeon servers. With AMD, they're like, okay, Ryzen is desktop, Threadripper is high-end desktop, Threadripper Pro is workstation, and then Epic is server. So yeah, the naming scheme's a little different between each. So like, yeah. So if you were in the market for an OEM computer and you needed all those CPU lanes, Threadripper wasn't really an option. Threadripper Pro was your only option if you needed those lanes that the desktop chips just didn't supply.
So with all that said, I actually might be considering a Threadripper Pro upgrade, not when it first comes out, but as my next upgrade.
That's interesting.
Yeah, maybe. It depends on how the performance is per dollar. Because, I mean, realistically, I'd probably only get the 24 core. I wouldn't get the... Because I want that speed, you know? I don't really need the 64, 32 core chip. 24 would probably be plenty for me because then I'll have 48 threads, which is fine. Because most of the stuff I do is, I do more CPU-based stuff now with Premiere Pro and whatnot, but 16 core, 32 threads has been fine for me with 128 gigs of RAM. I was just gonna more do it for the PCIe lanes. That way I could put in like more capture cards and more like SSD devices that are really fast, things like that, and maybe a 10 gig networking in the future, maybe.
So, 10 gig networking, man. I don't know.
I'm gonna do it, man. It's gonna happen.
No, that's fine. I feel like that really soon that shouldn't be an add-in card. That should be on the motherboard and whatever.
There's a few motherboards with it already on. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the big thing with like Threadripper, and this is kind of an aside, not necessarily related to the news article, but the big thing I think is like virtualization and running VMs that you could like remote into. So if you had like 2 people, 3 people trying to work off the same computer, and you had 2 GPUs that you can now pass through to VMs in certain ways, with like a 32 core Threadripper or Threadripper Pro, you could equip each of those VMs with 16 cores and a 3090, and 2 simultaneous workloads could be taking better advantage of it than you could be doing in one Windows OS experience. So in order to leverage the extra horsepower, having multiple users via VMs is one approach. And I think that's something people should consider if they are in a situation like that. I don't know, if someone had like 5 kids or something, build one like supercomputer and then give them like netbooks or Chromebooks.
7 gamers, 1 PC, Linus Tech Tips.
Yeah, well, it's gotten better since then. So
yeah, so spend $100,000 on a computer, then give all 7.
Well, the computer doesn't have to be that expensive, especially when you consider like. For a second, I was considering a Mac Studio with the new M1 Ultra chip.
Yeah, for $6,000.
And then I was like, wait, for $6,000, I can like have the best desktop ever.
Exactly.
So, yeah, with that, I changed my mind real quick.
Yeah. So the Mac Studio, just real quick on touch, it was like $4,000. I'd consider it.
It offers a lot in a small package.
Yeah, like that's what it's basically aimed at. It's called the Studio. Like it's aimed at those type of people, right? It's aimed at, like, the way I see it, it's aimed at people that are either working for a company or something and don't want to put something together. They just want to buy it, plug it in, and start using it. And they're willing to pay that $6,000 premium for that. And of course, hey, look, I got a Mac, so we're pros now. We're cool. There's a lot of that going on in at least that industry. Like where I work, they wanted a Macintosh computer to use Premiere Pro at my job. And the cheapest one they found that they thought they needed was like $3,000. I'm like, we could just build you a PC with a 2060 for like, well, at the time, like less than $1,000 and you'd be good. So.
Yeah, thing is, the Macs are like, if you're used to a Mac, then getting a new Mac is the logical choice because it's going to be a very predictable experience. And
less training too.
And they just streamline moving to a new system and having everything the way it was on your old one. It makes it so simple. When you get a new Windows computer, like for me, I like that it's a clean slate and I reinstall the stuff I want. But for some people, they just want it to work exactly like the old one did.
Yeah, and that's a big part about technology that a lot of people don't talk about, is that if you're upgrading something, you got to train your staff on how to use it. So the ease of transitioning is a big deal when it comes to companies and such. So if it's already on a platform that people are familiar with, they're already in the ecosystem, that's kind of like what Boeing did, except they effed up and killed a lot of people. Not saying that Apple and Boeing are the same thing, just saying. Yeah, so that's going to be really interesting when that comes out. It's supposedly come out later this year. I will probably wait till next year or until the, whatever end of the year to try to let other people look at it and get a feel for it. Because I don't know, man, if something better doesn't come out by that time, I might switch to Intel.
In my opinion, if you're even considering Threadripper Pro, I would suggest you wait for the next generation.
Yeah, 5000 series, right?
Well,
one after that?
I mean following that, because all of the things that it's great for, PCI Express lanes and memory bandwidth, you're gonna likely get Gen 5 PCI Express and then DDR5 memory on the next platform.
Yeah.
So those are really the strengths of Threadripper Pro. I can't really see spending the money on it if it doesn't have the latest stuff, like Intel. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like Intel just beat AMD to Gen 5 and DDR5, but I think once AMD gets alongside them with those same features, AMD is gonna have the lead once again. It's just Intel got there first, but it's like getting to the start of the race first.
Yeah, exactly. So let's catch up on chat real quick. A lot of stuff has been said. So Raphael?
Yep.
Hassel? Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Raphael Hassel says a lot. If I could afford a workstation, it would be a Threadripper. Do Blender, Unreal. You got to do GPU render on large. Okay. Got to do CPU. Can't do GPU on large renders. Yeah. So he seems to be working with a lot of cores and stuff. John Germain is talking a lot about it too. I guess he loves cores. He's using the 18-core 36-thread 7980 XE Skylake. Oh, that's an older CPU. That's like 5 years old now. Wow. And it isn't compatible Windows 11. Oh, that sucks.
I don't know if that's true. And like, here's the thing. Windows said like all this stuff isn't compatible, right?
Yeah.
And didn't they say like first generation Ryzen wasn't compatible? Maybe
I can't remember.
Okay.
Not that I just don't remember.
I guess I don't remember either, but the thing is, I took my SSD out of my laptop, which is a Zen 3 laptop on Windows 11, and I threw that in my test bench, which it's an AM4, but it's an Athlon. It's the very first series of chips for AM4 that were like the lower end alongside Ryzen 1000. And it booted up fine. And like I was using Windows 11 to install Chrome Remote Desktop. I didn't have any like pop-ups or errors or like, you can't use this. So I don't really know what the issue. I know like they say you have to have trusted platform module and maybe those older Intel ones don't, but I thought they were saying the same thing about older AMD. I'll have to check that out and see. But yeah, I don't know. You might have a workaround if you install Windows 11 on another machine and then bring it over. Just slide the SSD in, because Windows does not really have a problem doing that whatsoever.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I've never really experienced it. I'm usually on a newer. I'm usually like no more than 2 generations behind current. So I never really had that issue. Honestly, it's not something I really went through.
Yeah.
So CPPC Tech says you can make a ton of unsupported computers run pretty easily if you YouTube it. Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, you can YouTube a lot of things. CPP Tech also says more cores, more something. That's funny. Lenovo was IBM. Yes, it was John Germain. All right, guys. So we are kind of in the end of our stream here. We've gone all over topics. We're kind of at the AMA portion. If you guys have any questions about the week's news or otherwise or anything that's going on, right now is the time to ask. You can actually ask anytime, but right now is a good time. Soul7 says, when I become rich, I'll buy a Threadripper. No, Soul7, just you don't need it. No one, I'd say 25%, including me, of the people that want one don't actually need it. It's better just to buy a bigger graphics card, honestly, most of the time. Soul7 says that's because you're rich. What? Not rich. I just take money from people.
Only have the most expensive things.
Let's see. I got a nice camera. I got a nice computer. I got a nice okay, I guess I could be perceived as rich. Yeah. So I would say, regarding Threadripper, just to finish that up, only get it if you actually need the lanes or the RAM, because you're paying $1,000 extra for the premium of just having it with the same performance when it comes to other things.
Yeah.
So,
for instance, if you do need more than 128 gigs of memory, you don't have many options.
No. You got 2 options. 3.
Right. And one of them is build your own computer, and the other one is spend a whole lot of money at Lenovo.com.
Yeah. Or the other one is to just buy an online server to do all your stuff. Remote into it. Let's see here. John Z says, so is that Threadripper Pro going to be really worth it other than a full workhorse? No, it's not.
That's literally its job.
Yeah.
So just like
buying a Mack truck, it's not going to be very fast.
That's a good analogy. Yeah, you need a Mack truck when you need a Mack truck. You can't use an F-150 if you need a Mack truck.
Exactly.
But if you need an F-150, don't get a Mack truck.
Yeah, I would say the Ryzen, I'd say like the 5950X is like a F350, right? Yeah. It's like an F3. It's like a pretty heavy duty truck, but it's not a tractor trailer. And I'd say the non-pro is like those box trucks? Not a tractor trailer. It still has juice brakes, no compression brakes. And then the Pro series, I'd say, is like a small trailer, and the Epic Rome is like those 64-footers.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you're basically trading core speed for more cores and more processing power and more I/O. So in most applications, you want to be fast, not necessarily have like for example, there's a good example I use all the time. Most of the world's infrastructure that processes our credit card transactions are on really slow, older computers. Like, actually, those servers are usually 5 to 10 years old. Why? Because they can handle 40 billion transactions per second, but if you try to run Minecraft on it, it'll crash because it just can't handle that much work in one core. It's designed for multi-core applications, right? So in that type of situation is where you would want the Mack truck. You could haul a lot of stuff. Can't go very fast though. It's like using a Mack truck for a pizza delivery. You want that thing fast, right? You don't. When you use a Mack truck, it's going to take like 18 minutes just to get into 6th gear on the highway. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I mean, those higher core CPUs are usually lower clock speed because they favor stability, while the gaming desktop chips. Call them gaming desktop chips. The regular desktop chips, they usually try to squeeze out as much performance as possible because that does matter in gaming, and it matters in benchmarks and stuff where you're trying to sell these chips to the largest population of people buying CPUs.
Exactly. Let me just read chat here. Can't recall whether I have more computer or more guitars, John Germain. Guitars, man. I know like a lot of guitar collectors. I just never got into it. Maybe it's because I don't play. That would help.
That's probably why.
Yeah. My coworker used to collect guitars all the time. He'd always buy them. He'd fix them up and sell them for like way more money. Never knew how he did it.
Interesting.
I guess there's just that market for it.
I think there's probably a good market of people selling guitars that are not used for very long. That didn't work out too well in the lessons. And then if you're willing to sit on the inventory for a little while, you can probably get close to retail for it.
Yeah, exactly. After it's aged a little bit. All right. So this stream's been going pretty long. We're at like over an hour and a half. We're an hour and 45 minutes. Do you guys have any final questions for us? Because then we're just going to go into the closing portion and go ahead and end this stream.
Yep.
Oh, my project is powered body armor. Yes, I remember you talked about that, Raphael. He made like a rendered like CG power armor thing.
Yeah, I'm
Kinda
gonna
cool.
have to check that out.
Yeah, he linked it somewhere in the Discord.
He said, yeah, he said he's posting it in Discord. So yeah, if you guys aren't already in our Discord, check it out in the link in the description of this live stream should be there.
Yep.
Yeah, we basically talk about everything we talked about in the live stream has probably been discussed in the Discord at some point. And we just go back and forth and more, you know, different people join and bring different things that they're enthusiasts of. So a big thing there is the water cooling that both of us are, you know, big fans of. We like hearing your projects, whether they're small, whether you're trying to water cool a Raspberry Pi, or, you know, if you have access to like an Epic workstation, Epic server rather, that you're trying to do some crazy external radiator setup. Everything from the extremes to in between is welcome. So join the Discord, check it out, and if there's something that isn't being discussed, that would be even better because it's a new thing for us.
Yeah, and we have a content suggestions area and the Tek Torrent Podcast area in that Discord. So if there's something you want us to talk about or investigate, always drop it in there. In fact, that's where we get some of our ideas from. I'd say maybe at least one idea a week comes from our community. So if there's something you really want to hear about, it's in there. That's where you want to drop it. Also, real quick, the Discord is growing, guys. I don't want to say too much right now, but I'll say being in the Discord and being in there early and being active is all keys to the success for something amazing in the future. What it is, I can't tell you yet, but I'll just say if you're there in the early days, like now, and then you're still there in the later days, like Q3, Q4, something good's coming. I know it's a long time away, but I mean, I have a lot of stuff going on. Q2 for me is probably going to be a bust because I'll be moving and setting up a house. So, but I'm just saying, guys, we got a lot of plans for the Discord, a lot of things planned, a lot of projects going on, and there's a lot of channels that are hidden. Like half the channels are hidden because we're just not active yet. So just keep that in mind, guys. It'd be in your best interest to join at least at the very minimum and hang out. If you guys are not in there already, that is. Let's see here. Do we have anything else in chat? Otherwise, we're just going to go ahead and close the stream. We'll give them about 30 seconds for the delay to catch up. Oh, Andrew.
Yeah.
I am going to be looking at the Ubiquity system, the full system in the future.
Like hardwire through the walls kind of solution?
Hardwired through the walls, backhaul, wired backhaul, access points, cameras, router, switch, networking, everything.
Man, you're trying to look for that big tax write-off, huh?
I don't think you can tax write off that.
If you do a video on it.
Oh, yeah, because it's a bit... Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah. No, I mean, the video is going to happen, that's for sure. It's probably going to be like a Linus-style video, but I'm thinking about it because it's only like $1,500 minus cameras and hard drives. So it's just nice to not have 4 separate companies for everything. Different company for your switch, different company for your cameras, different company for your access point, different company for your modem and your router.
And it seems like their support's pretty good.
Yeah, like the only reason I'm even considering them is because they, you know, seem to be pretty unified and actually seem to do research and like work on their stuff. So,
yeah.
All right, guys. Like I said, he rich. No, I wouldn't say I'm rich. I would just say that I use my money in areas that I really care about. Like, I'll give you a hint, guys. I actually make somewhere between 50 and 100K a year. Somewhere in that range. It's a big range, but you guys could figure it out. All right, guys. I don't think we got anything else going on, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream here. Thank you for joining us tonight, guys. Really appreciate it. We'll be hanging out in the Discords throughout the weekend. I'm going to be, again, guys, I'm moving and getting a house and all that. I'm going to be busy at least until May. So Sorry, we're working on some videos in the background, but it's gonna be a little bit rough for a little bit regarding new videos. So try to stick with us, man. It's gonna be. I know you guys want those juicy videos. We're working on it. Trust me, it's happening. It's gonna be a lot slower for a little bit. All right, Andrew, do you have anything else?
No, I hope you guys show up in the Discord if you're not there already, and yeah, we'll be carrying on the conversation there for a little while.
Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week. Same bad time, same bad channel, 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. And this has been the Tek Torrent Podcast. Bye-bye, everyone.